On the planet Yaya Prime, a small predator named Dek is in the middle of a training session. Using an array of tools to traverse the land, he ventures into a cave where his scanner detects his brother nearby. Dek strikes from behind with his sword, but Ki blocks it just in time. The brothers clash, and Ki constantly taunts Dek, reminding him to use the cave to his advantage. Their swords clash repeatedly as they maneuver through the cavern. Eventually, Ki corners Dek but doesn't deliver the fatal blow. When Dek refuses to surrender, Ki severs the pillar beneath them, sending Dek plummeting into the abyss. Dek manages to save himself by gripping the wall, climbs back up, and attacks Ki once more. Later, aboard their ship, Ki tells Dek it's time to choose a prey to prove his worth to the Arya clan. Dek declares he wants to hunt Kallisk, the unkillable monster on Jenna, known as the Death Planet. Even their father fears it, which is precisely why Dek wants to face it. He's tired of being seen as weak. Ki disapproves, but Dek swears his vow. At that moment, their father, Njar, returns. Dek greets him with a sample of his blood. Njar questions why Dek is alive, revealing he had ordered Ki to kill him for being too weak to join the clan. But Ki believes Dek deserves a chance to prove himself. Angrily, Njar throws a device to capture Dek and orders Ki to finish him. Instead, Ki frees his brother, activating a laser to propel him into the ship and shielding him as Njar opens fire. Ki engages Njar, disarming him in a few swift moves. Njar activates a camouflage cloak, but Ki continues attacking. Njar stabs Ki's hand before cutting off his arm. Njar strikes him down, and Ki, crawling, reaches for his arm rather than his sword. Njar mocks him as weak and stabs him. Using his last strength, Ki activates the ship, allowing Dek to escape to Jenna. Dek watches Ki's sacrifice as the ship launches, knocking him out. Dek awakens to Alar. The ship has been damaged by orbital debris and is hurtling toward Jenna. He ejects the seat, plummeting through the planet's sky. When a bird nearly collides with him, he activates a shield. He crashes in the jungle, roaring in frustration. Determined to hunt the monster, Dek checks his weapons. A sudden noise alerts him, and a vine-like creature snatches one of his weapons. Dek readies his sword, but a second vine grabs his arm, forcing him to cut it while the first escapes. More vines attack, grabbing his leg and dragging him. Dek shoots his bow to free himself, punches the vine away, retrieves his sword, and slices down the attacking vines. But more keep coming, coordinating their attacks. Dek dodges, leaps atop a vine, and reaches the top of a cliff. Safe for now, he surveys the terrifying landscape below. Dek washes his wound in a river and uses his scanner to locate a medicinal plant capable of creating an explosive. On a leaf, he finds a worm producing red spheres that explode when thrown. He prepares to explore further, searching for Kallisk. In a vast field, strange red plants hiss at him, forcing him to move cautiously. Suddenly, a voice speaks in an alien language, Thea, trapped in a massive nest. Switching to a universal translator, she reveals she is a synthetic android. A Jenna vulture appears, throwing a rock at the plants, triggering red smoke and needles. Dek dodges as Thea warns him that the needles can paralyze him. She offers help, but Dek insists the Yao hunt alone. Thea correctly guesses he's hunting Kallisk. Rocks and plant explosions strike Dek, and he collapses from the needle's effect, tossing one of his blades to Thea. The vulture swoops to attack him, but Thea intercepts and kills it. Dek sees her wave before passing out. Minutes later, Dek wakes as Thea administers an antidote made from the same flower. They help each other, but he notices Thea has lost half her body. She explains she's a synthetic created by the Wei and Yutani Corporation to survive on Jenna. Dek, indifferent, dismisses her injury. Thea warns him that many Yao hunters have perished attempting to kill Kallisk, but she survived. She offers guidance to Kallisk's den if Dek agrees to take her along, promising she regains her legs while he earns his trophy. Though Dek initially resists, he accepts, seeing her as a tool rather than breaking the code. While traveling, Thea incessantly asks questions. At a river, acid-shooting worms attack, and Dek carries her on his back to move faster. They encounter sticky fruit used as bait, halting the worms. Dek cuts down vines, ties Thea to his back, and they set up camp for the night. Thea reveals her crew arrived on Jenna 2 years ago. She was trapped for almost 2 weeks, awaiting rescue by another synthetic. Tessa looks identical to her and is being repaired after Kallisk's attack. The next day, Dek hunts a bone bison. Razor Grass forces him to retreat, but a small creature assists by chasing the bison through the hazardous terrain. Dek follows, narrowly avoiding danger, and finally kills the bison. Suddenly, a lunar bug captures him and Thea with its tentacle. The small creature intervenes, breaking its teeth, while Dek kills it with a tree bridge attack. Meanwhile, Tessa and her crew search for Thea, encountering aggressive vines. They open fire and use flamethrowers to clear the path. Dek and Thea camp again, and Dek notices the small creature, Bud, following him. They bond over roasted meat, and Thea inquires about Dek's family, learning about his brother and father. Dek refuses to call it grieving. Tessa and her crew find Dek's crashed ship and weapons, including a grenade. The next morning, Dek leaves with Thea, insisting on hunting alone. Thea teaches him about pack hunting, but Dek misunderstands, focusing on kills. They find a cool fang near a river and approach Thea's base, now destroyed. Thea reconnects her legs using a repair machine, thanking Dek and activating a beacon to summon her crew. Dek refuses to leave, igniting spilled oil to create smoke. Kallisk appears, throwing Dek and damaging his sword. Dek uses makeshift shields and blades to fight, but Kallisk's regenerative powers keep it alive. Dek cuts the creature's tongue to free himself, dodges attacks, and uses a chain to restrain it. He climbs its body to decapitate it, but the head reattaches. Tessa intervenes with a freeze grenade, capturing Dek and Kallisk. Dek awakens strapped to a table, Thea in suspension, Tessa reading her logs. Tessa seeks a specimen from Dek. Thea attempts to save him, claiming he's too small for science. Tessa connects painful cables to his head, but Thea shuts the machine off, insisting they can be more than mere tools. Dek escapes with Thea's help, jumping into a waterfall. He recovers his crashed ship, gathering natural weapons, razor glass, red flower spikes, and acid worms. He realizes Bud is Kallisk's child and covers it in his own scent. Dek frees Thea's legs to track the monster. Dek dons bison bone armor, infiltrates the base, and defeats guards with creative use of vines, acid, and brute force. Inside a lab, Dek faces a guard, releasing a vine to kill him. Thea coordinates with her legs to fight another guard. Dek finds the container empty, but Thea kills an ambushing guard. Reunited, Dek and Thea decide to free Kallisk so Bud can reunite with its mother. Alarms trigger as Tessa accelerates the ship with Kallisk aboard. Dek uses combustible worms to destroy synthetic soldiers. Tessa confronts him in a battlesuit, firing lasers and wielding a massive saw. Dek evades, climbing and sabotaging the suit. Kallisk intervenes, splitting the suit in two. Tessa is devoured but survives inside the beast. Dek stabs her from behind, killing her, but decapitates Tessa. Dek returns to Yaya, presenting Tessa's head to his father. Now still deems him unworthy and sends guards, but Dek kills them and defeats Jar. He captures Jar, symbolically stabs his helmet, and declares he already has a clan, Thea, Bud, and himself. At that moment, another ship arrives. Dek's mother has returned.